G'day trendsetters, Greg here from Fishbait Films, and welcome back to our episode 2 of basic weathering HO locomotives. And as we said in the first video, we were talking about applying a wash and how it helps make details pop and gives you a shadow line and a 3D effect on locomotives. So, as promised, I'm going to show you how I did that wash, and we're going to do this SD70 Mac here today, sister of one of the ones we did up there and showed in the video. So let's get into it. Right, the first thing we're going to do is give the loco a quick clean to get rid of any dust and, you know, bits and pieces that are on it, because you're highlighting all the little details on the loco, so you don't want to highlight, you know, all the bits of dust on the loco. So I'm just going to do one side here. Well, I'm only going to do one side. I'll show you doing one side, otherwise I'm just going to drag on and on and on. So make sure you get into all the little vents in that there, because we'll be putting some heavy washes in there. We don't want the wash to bring out every speck of dust. Now, after you've done that, also, because the locos might have a bit of oil from manufacturing or painting on them, I like to give them all just a bit of a rub down with some Windex. You could probably use soapy water or something. Now, when I was using the enamel thinners and enamel paints, all the locos that I've done so far have been done with enamel paints, because that's what the guy in the train shop talked me into buying originally. And of course, most people now use acrylic. So what I've got is this bottle, I should say, of grimy black that I will never use, so I'm using that for all my washes. And I found that the enamel washes using the enamel thinners run a lot better than the acrylics, and I had quite a bit of trouble getting the acrylics to run as well as the enamels, but I found a really good airbrush thinner mixture on YouTube, which I will post at the end of the video, and that works quite well. And the acrylics still don't flow as well as the enamels, but I think in the end they give maybe a slightly cleaner and tighter finish comparing the two. But anyway, you know, whatever floats your boat, man. So anyway, just and make sure if you're using with the Windex, it's the non-ammonia one, otherwise you'll have trouble. Now, you could use soapy water, or you could use you know, whatever, just not thinners. So do that just to make sure that's clean. Now, our formula, the formula for the thinners for the acrylic that we're using, as I said, I'll post at the end of the video. Our ratio will be 8:1 to start with. Now, if you're not happy with that, if you want it lighter or darker, you can change it, but I found 8:1 is pretty good. So it's 8 part thinners to 1 part of paint. And that's the thinners using the formula that I'll post at the end of the video. And of course, if you're using enamels, well, it's just 1 part paint to 8 parts of enamel thinners. So let's go and mix this up, and we'll get into it. Now, the paint I'm using is a, what is it, aqueous hobby colour or something, I don't know. It's actually not black, it's actually called oil, and would be fantastic for oil if I knew how to use it for oil. It's got like a shimmery haze in it, and it runs really nicely for like oil spills and fuel spills, so it's not really the best paint for this, because the silver part in it tends to separate and you don't get a blacker line as you would really want. So it's really hard to buy paint down here. So I've got some polyscale grimy black and some testers, I think. No, Badger Model Flex grimy black and coming, so from the States. It's just impossible to buy good paint down here. Well, that I've tried to find anyway. So we've got our wash in our little doobie here, and it's diluted 8 parts thinner to 1 part paint. And we're just going to, now see, if that was the enamel one, that drop would run straight down there. But don't worry, you can probably see that one. I don't know whether the camera's picking this up. But anyway, don't worry, there we go. What you can do is just run along the top like that. Now, if you want, it's really weird. If you want the paint to go, or the wash I say, to go in the line, you're better off going across the line. If you follow the line down, you end up wiping the paint off the line. But I'd probably do both, I reckon. Now you can see these little, I hope the camera's picking that up, you can see that little latch bouncing out there at us. This is really cool, this little bit down here. This is like a, I don't know, it must be like a diamond piece between two hinges, maybe it's where hinges are or something. That really pops out when you put the wash on. Now these little panels here really pop out. Have a look at that. Have a look at that, trendsetters. Now this is the first time that I cleaned the Loco with Windex. I was just thinking about it, thinking, now hang on. When we were using an enamel wash, it probably didn't matter that much that there was oil down the side of the Loco, but when you're using a acrylic, of course water and oil don't mix, so the water-based acrylic is not going to run as well across the oily, you know, if there is any oil on the Loco from the manufacturing or painting. So, you know, you can just go, there's no science in this at all, really. It's pretty well bulletproof. And if you want a heavier line, do one application, wait for it to dry a little bit, and then go across and do it again. Now, if you're worried about the paint falling down the bottom here, along the walkway, well, you know, I think that's what happens. The guys are always walking. You can brush it off if you like, but occasionally I just like to let it pool down the bottom here. And it's like the guys have had an oil spill, you know, they've been doing a bit of work on the Loco and dropped a bit of oil or a bit of diesel's come out, spilled out from down there. And look, and then you just go across like that. The good thing about washing is that it's, as I said in the first video, it's dead easy. If I can make it look good, trendsetters, I tell you, anybody can, because you know me and scenery, we don't get along. Now moving up to the front. Actually, I've got to say, I'm thinking that using that Windex to pre-wash the Loco has made a huge difference to how this paint runs. I'm really impressed with it, actually. As I said earlier on, I think the acrylics, well, so far anyway, seem to give a finer line than the enamels. I don't know. But it'll be really interesting when I get the... oh, look at that. I hope the camera's picking that up, but this is just like magic. It's like the Loco's coming alive, trendsetters, in front of your very eyes. Now, with the vents here, we'll go back and do them again, but I'll just put a base coat in there, and then we'll go back and we'll lay the Loco on its side and do the vents so they even get a bit darker. I'm not a big fan of having really dark vents. Now, I know most people are probably going to disagree with me on that. And I've seen lots of people paint them and all that sort of thing. But to me, I like seeing, and you're going to say, it's not prototypical. Well, I know there are some Locos out there that the vents are reasonably clean. Oh, now, look at that, trendsetters. Now, as I said before, the beauty of doing a wash, can you see that? How these have just punched out here, these little eyelets? Holy dooly. It's getting too exciting. One thing I forgot, and I forgot to say on the other ones too. Make sure you do your stanchions. Now you're thinking, what the hell for? Well, you wouldn't believe how much difference it makes when you do the stanchions. Just a quick rub down there. And actually with the stanchions, what you could do, especially these being dark ones, you could mix up maybe a lighter grey or a browner wash and put that in the stanchions so they stand out a little bit more. But of course the stanchions are going to get covered in crap too. Just go along here. And you can see that little bit now, a little bit of paint is pooled here. Now, if you're not happy with that, you could wipe it off, but I'm going to leave it. Because, you know, that's a little bit of dirt there. And look, I've just made another big wash down there. And of course, the beauty of doing this is if you don't have an airbrush, you can get great results if you don't have all the, you know, the gear to to do a dust on them, which I will be doing a dust on these with an airbrush and highlighting trucks and all that sort of thing, but a wash is a great way, I think, a cheap and easy way to get your locos looking non-toyish for, you know, a couple of bucks. Right, we've got our loco horizontal now because what we want the wash to stay in the vents and not run down the side of the loco, because we want it to concentrate in the vents here. And it's really cool because the actual indentations, because they're moulded in, keep the paint from sort of running. Now look, I'm even just doing a little bit down there, but it doesn't matter, the majority stays in there. Now as you notice, I'm going acrossways. If I was going to go this way, I'd end up wiping most of the wash out. So we want to go this way, so it wipes the wash off the top of the ridges. That's what I was trying to get at before. The look I'm after is the loco's pretty new, or just been resprayed. As it goes through the washes, the brushes will wash the top of the vent here, but of course they can't get in to the insides where the dirt is accumulated. So you get the lines of black where the dirt is inside the air intake vent there, but of course it just gives the outside a little bit of a scrub when it goes through the wash bay. That's the look I'm after. Now obviously as the locos get older, the dirt around the outside here gets worse and worse, so they you know, they end up being that big black solid vent that you see. But you know, pretty anal on the Birdwood sub, we make sure everything's spotless. Not if you saw my kitchen. Actually no, my kitchen is spotless. It's not built, but it's spotless. That's where you eat. The rest of the house is a construction zone. But you know, as we've said before, layout first. Now, I'm going to come back with that and later on and put a slightly heavier wash in there. I'll put a few more drops of, when I finish doing the loco, I'll put a few more drops. Now I'm just going to attack a bit more down this end here. There's just a few bits here that I just want to smooth out a little bit. Now of course if you go over and you think, oh that's a bit too dark, I don't like that, well you just get your thinner mixture and with a cotton wool bud and just wipe it off, or you can even do it with another brush. But this is actually looking pretty good. Now it does dry a little bit lighter too. If you're a bit concerned, you know, and you think, oh it's a bit too dark, you will find that it does dry a bit lighter. I'll just roll it over there and just do the same with these vents here. This mixture that I've done is actually, I've diluted it a little bit more. So it's not flowing, it's not getting these vents as black as I would like, but it is actually flowing really well. So but that's okay, I can go back over that again. I just love how this makes things pop. Now, while we're on this side of the loco, also very important to do all your pipes and highlights down here, all your air equipment. I tell you what, doesn't it make them stand out as well? Just go crazy, man. You know, because I've got the artistic ability of a house brick, and yeah, if I can do it, anybody can. It's just amazing how this wash just brings out, and I've said it 1,000 times. Alrighty, well let's do the trucks. I'm not going to do the other side and bore you completely pooless. So we'll do the trucks, and actually no, we'll do the front first because there's a really good little highlight on the front. So we'll do the front. The door here has a hinge obviously and a little latch, and this really brings that out as well. As I say, go, if you want a bit more detail, go across like that and you sort of wipe the wash into the line. If you want to make it less noticeable, run the brush through the line. Now also I'm doing the, remember I mentioned in the other one, whoops, in front of the camera there, Greg, the Macs have this for the isolated cab, their groove there, so get quite a bit of wash in that because that's their rubber suspension member that makes the cab flex, separate to the body of the locomotive. Rightio, we've done the door. That's good. See, it's picked up that little hinge there. I'll just go a bit more crazy there, leave a bit more there. Ah, now, what did I say? Stanchions. These yellow stanchions, very important. Because they look pretty. Now, of course, these are going to be weathered, you know, with the airbrush, so they'll be the chain too. You do the chain and it shows the links up in the chain. This is David Copperfield crap, trendsetters. And of course, if you want a bit more, you know, just whack a bit more on there. Doesn't matter. Oh, look at that running down there. Yeah, man. Loving it, loving it, loving it. And I'll do the pilot and all that sort of stuff. Drop the pilot. Why would you want to drop the pilot? Friggin' Planet Crash. What a stupid song. Anyway. Rightio. Ah, now the top. Top. Now, of course, this is this, as I mentioned earlier, this was this paint that's actually oil. It's meant to be oil, so it's not as dark as you would expect. But it's actually not doing a bad job. Oops. Rightio, onto the trucks. Now, of course, on silver trucks like this, you would use a, obviously using a black wash. But on black trucks, whoa, look at that, trendsetters. Look how that picks that out there. But of course, on black trucks, you would use like a maybe a grey wash or a bit of brown or something. Now, I go pretty heavy on the trucks, but all of a sudden, you see little imprints like, you know, the nut heads on the bearing caps and all that sort of thing. Now, I did some trucks on my SD40-2s, which someone commented on. And by the way, thank you very much for all the nice comments on the first weathering video. I did say be gentle, but I didn't say, you know, suck up to me. But, yeah, a lot of you seasoned weatherers like Frank in Germany and Schultze and another couple of guys who are, you know, brilliant at weathering, have said how good it is. So, you know, that's very humbling. Thank you very much. But look at that, how these bearing caps and that just pop out there, trendsetters. But on my SD40-2s, I used a grey wash. And as I was doing it, I saw some, what the hell is that coming up on the side of the truck? And it was an EMD logo that's put in, that's moulded into the side of the truck, obviously in the casting. And you just can't see it until you put the wash on. And you put the wash on and here's this bloody EMD thing pokes out at you, and I thought, well, there you go. That just proves why this is so good. Now, there's something there. See that there? I don't know what that is. But anyway. But look at all these bearing cap details here, the shock absorber details. You got little chains here. Ah, yeah. Now let it, see how it's pooling there? Let it sit there, because that'll act like an accumulation of dirt. Ah, now I haven't done the... There we go. There is a pipe up here, believe it or not. There we go. Right, well, I'll do the front one, and we'll come back and I'll do a dry brush, a bit of a dry brush on these trucks here to show you what that does. Now, dry brushing is basically what it says is putting some paint on the brush, nearly wiping it all off, and then getting the right sort of brush on. I'm still not the best at dry brushing, but what it does, it picks up, you run the brush across on an angle and it just sort of gets paint on these little edges here, and it really works probably better on the darker trucks, with a, with a grey on these. I think these are still a little bit wet too. Where the washer brings up the internal and little bumps like that, the dry brushing tends to bring up external, if you know what I mean. But I don't think it works as well. This is the sort of effect you want round here, round the edges here. But I don't think it works as well on the silver trucks. I think you're probably better off just using an airbrush, I don't know, or powders. Now the good thing, of course, about putting a wash on is what it does, it gives a base for the powders to stick. Now, I've watched a few videos with powders, and especially if you're just using pastels and chalks, so you've got to get on an angle so you don't actually, paint you're trying to get the highlights on the edges. Anyway, I'm probably not showing up that well on the camera, but using a wash helps the powders stick because it gives them a rougher surface to stick to. So that's another good reason for doing a wash. So when you start putting powders on, they stick a lot better. Okay, well that's this old girl done, apart from getting a dusting with an airbrush and some dirt on the front and rear pilot with the airbrush, and of course getting the roof done with exhaust black and all that sort of thing. But but as a quick cheap method of weathering, I reckon the washers bring out highlights, as I've said before, and they're cheap and cheerful to do. Here's just another little project I've been working on, trendsetters. The weathering bug is bit. I suppose that's one good thing about model railroading. If you get sick of cutting ply and everything, you can always start another project and do something else. As I clean a brush here, this has been just washed with a black wash, the same as we did the locomotive. And hopefully they're not coming to get me. Keep going, boys. Uh-oh. Anyway, as you can see, the wash has run down. I've let it concentrate down here, and just basically gone over the black wash. And then this really helped these rust lines from just a weathering powder. And the trucks were just done with some brown and a little bit of rust powder over the black wash on the trucks. Because again, this one has to be done with an airbrush, and the dirt up the sides and some dusting down the bottom there. But without an airbrush, I reckon it's come out alright. So there you go. Well, trendsetters, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. As I say, I'm a novice in this as well, so I'm learning all the time. But it's great fun, and it really brings your models to life and makes them look a lot more realistic. So I'd like to thank all the people that have inspired me. I can't remember any of the names. TSG Multimedia, they do a really good little podcast on weathering freight car trucks. They do a whole boxcar, but the truck looks really good. Alan Rockwell, he does a boxcar. There's a German guy, I forget his name now. Steve Westland. There's a whole lot that have I've picked little bits and pieces and managed to get what I think suits me. Everything will suit someone different. Anyway, that's washers. So the next one we'll come back. We might do still on locos, but airbrushing and a bit more dry brushing too, I think. So anyway, that'll do for now. So thank you for watching and all that sort of jazz. And take care. We'll see you later. Bye bye. Toot toot.